How do I fix my alloys at home without using expensive equipment? If you found yourself asking that question, then you found the perfect video. No nonsense, no fluff, just value. In the video, I'll show you 4 ways to repair alloy wheels at home using only aerosol products. So you don't need to worry about owning a compressor, nor any spray guns. I'm confident that by the end of this video, you won't need to watch any other videos because you'll be armed with as much knowledge that you need to carry on with your own project. I think we can get a professional standard finish, but without all the professional tools. So sit back, enjoy, let's crack on. This is the car that we're going to be working on, a little Fiesta. It's about 20 years old. The wheels have seen some hammer, typical curb damage. All 4 wheels were damaged, so they're all going to need repairing. You can do the steps in this method in situ on the car, but I decided to take them off. Using a combination of wheel acid and iron fallout remover, I was able to cut through years of grime. I wet up a piece of red scotch. I gave the inside barrels a good rub down and then swilled them off. The red scotch pad not only cleans the surface, but it also roughs up the surface, which will help us out down the line when we want to add paint. The wheels were looking good at this point with all the brake dust and grime now removed. Once the wheels have been dried, it's a good idea to label them up so that you know where they go back on the car. At this point, I usually like to have a good look at the wheels, make a little bit of a plan. Normally I tackle the worst wheel first, just a little bit of a psychological hack. In this video, I'm very quickly going to be going through 4 different methods of how to repair your wheels, ranging from virtually no tools to having something that you might already have you didn't think would be a tool, down to some more dedicated tools. We're just going to run through those really quickly. It's going to be really helpful for everybody because it should cover everyone's bases. One thing you will need no matter which method you decide to pick is some sanding discs. These often come in 150mm, 125mm or 75mm. The backing plate size and the tool that you're going to use will obviously dictate which discs you need to have. Don't worry if you can only get big discs, or if you've already bought some big discs, you can put the backing plate on the disc. If it's smaller, cut around it with some scissors or a blade. If you are choosing to do this by hand, you will probably need an 80 grit to start with. Fold the disc into half or quarters depending on the size and begin rubbing down the curb damage using pressure with your thumb in the exact area. Working on a concentrated spot, you should start to see the curb damage leveling down. Even with a coarse sandpaper such as 80 grit, this is going to be time consuming doing it by hand, but I've done it myself in the past and it can be done. Deeper marks may require some filler, so we'll come back to this method later in the video. Method 2 does require a tool, but it might be something that you've already got. You can turn the drill into a sanding machine using one of these backing plate and spindle adapters. Surprisingly effective. I've used this method many times when repairing alloy wheels. The backing plates usually look something like this, slightly different variations of them. I'll put a link in the description of the video if you need to buy one of these for your power tool. The backing plate should have a spindle on it which allows you to attach the plate to the drill. This allows your sanding discs to now be attached to the backing plate. Get yourself in a comfortable position which allows you to add some resistance against the drill as it moves. I recommend using probably an 80 grit sanding disc if you're using the drill method to start with. Check your progress and then move the wheel round to the next part of the damage. If you start to see a fair amount of black rubber looking dust and debris, don't worry, it's normally the backing plate grinding down. However, if you're working on the wheel with the tyre still on the alloy, it's recommended to not let the drill bounce around too much, hitting the tyre. Just take your time, slow the machine down and use a setting that you're comfortable with. If done correctly, then this is what the area should begin to look like. Moving swiftly on to method 3 of 4. This tool is a random orbital DA. It doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be fancy. Because these tools oscillate instead of spin, they do tend to leave quite a nice finish when you use them. I've found that most DA random orbital tools tend to come with a 125mm backing plate. So these Velcro backed 125mm 5-inch sanding discs fit perfectly to these machines. So let's put it to action against this small section of curb damage. Often these machines tend to sound quite loud, but they do offer a much more gentle cutting action. Exactly the same as when they're used on car paintwork. Because they oscillate instead of spin, there is often a more gentle cutting action, but because of this there's often slightly less cutting action than if you was using a tool that spins, such as a rotary or a drill. I recommend starting with an 80 grit or a 120 grit when you're using a random orbital DA. So the fourth method is my personal favourite method, and that is using a rotary machine. Nothing fancy or expensive. As long as it's a rotary and it's variable speed, this will be absolutely perfect for what we are about to do. Often a rotary machine will come with a 150mm 6-inch backing plate as standard, but sometimes if you're lucky you'll also get a 125mm 5-inch one in with it as well when you buy it. Obviously this fits the 150mm sanding discs perfectly, so no cutting or trimming is needed. Because this is probably the most aggressive option of the four, I normally skip the 80 grit sanding disc. Sometimes I skip the 120 and go straight to 180, but often 120 grit is enough to cut through really deep curb damage. I picked the worst wheel of the four for this rotary demonstration because I know it's the best, quickest method. Although there is some curb damage on this wheel, I've tackled much worse using this rotary method, and it's amazing how quickly it cuts through the curb damage, reprofiling the wheel. Again, as mentioned before, if you're working with the tyre still on the alloy, just be conscious not to hit it as much as possible. Just turn the machine on if this is your first time at a very low speed, maybe the lowest setting. Get yourself comfortable and just get yourself familiar with what you're about to do by just doing a little test section of the wheel just to see what you're up against. Just like with the cordless drill, because this machine spins, it will try and pull you and push you, so just try and work with it, hold it tight, but also let it do its thing. If you've decided to invest in a rotary machine just for doing wheels, you will be repaid tenfold in the amount of time and effort that you save compared to other methods. When I was doing this professionally, this was my go-to method for preparing a wheel and removing the curb damage. In some cases the curb damage might be too deep, or if you are doing it by hand and you struggle to get the deeper marks out, you may need some kind of filler. I do actually try and avoid using any kind of filler, but I will give you quickly a couple of options if you need to. One cool tip that I can give you is this Mitre Fast glue. This can be used on the alloy wheels and used as a filler. It's typically used for home DIY and in the building trade, so it's readily accessible and available online or at local hardware stores. It's a 2-pack product, so it comes with its own activator, so it dries very quickly, very hard and very durable. I do recommend wearing gloves when you're using this product because it is very difficult to get off your skin, especially your fingers. Simply apply a blob to the chip or the crevice that you want to try and repair. Grab the activator spray that comes with the product. Once that's sprayed on, it quickly dries. Alternatively, you can just use some car body filler. I find this stuff is absolutely fine for small localized areas on the alloy wheels. Most car body fillers are 2-pack components, which means there are 2 parts to the product. Once the 2 components are mixed together, you've then got a limited amount of time of workability, so a limited amount of time to get it on the repair area. Tape up the tyre around the area and carefully apply the product to the affected area. Once the filler and the glue is dried, it will need sanding and reprofiling to level out the area. Usually a 180 grit sanding disc is perfect for sanding the filler or the glue down in this instance. So depending on which method you do decide to use, I do recommend using a more coarse grit for the hand and the drill method. You don't have to follow this chart exactly, just try and stick to something similar. Often for time reasons etc, I might cut a few of these stages out, such as this. Like for example with the Rotary, I've often just gone straight to 180 and then over to 400 straight after and cut the other stages out. This is because I'm experienced and I know what I can and can't get away with. The worst thing you can do is go straight from 80 grit all the way up to 400, because the 400 isn't going to be able to remove the 80 grit marks. If it's your first time, take your time, do it properly. I need to mention, often these bolt holes, particularly on older wheels, tend to suffer from corrosion and blebbing. So you might just have to get in there by hand, which can be quite time consuming. It is worth spending that little bit of time getting those bits done, because at the end, after you've painted all the wheel and repaired the rest of it, they do look a little bit unsightly if you've just left them as they were. If you've got something like a Dremel or something similar, then you can use that to get rid of the majority of the corrosion, but you'll probably end up doing the rest of it by hand. If you've gone through the grades correctly and followed the instructions that are given, you should start to see something along the lines of this. A nice feathered out areas where the damage was. Now they're nice and smooth. If you run your finger across them, you can't feel any ridges or edges. One last stage of the sanding process that I do like to do is to get some wet and dry paper, 600, and just go around there with a bit of water and the wet and dry paper, and just really refining everywhere that you've sanded down. You could even go all over the wheel if you're painting all the wheel, and it just really does finish down that nice feathered finish that you're after. Even though we did it right at the start when we was washing the wheel, I just like to do one final real good scotch up all over the wheel with some grey scotch or red scotch, just to key up all any shiny areas that were there before. We want the whole wheel at this point looking completely dull and matte, because that way we know that the paint applications that are going to follow are going to stick. Now that we've finished the damage removal and sanding stages, it's time to make sure that the wheel is clean and dust free. Either use a hoover or an air gun, or even wash the wheel again to make sure it's completely clean, ready for masking up. A quick tip that's very quick and it can save you some money and it's quite effective is to use some kitchen cling film. Simply wrap the cling film all the way around the wheel. Then we get a blade, carefully cut all around the edge, remove the excess cling film and then mask all the way around the wheel rim edge. Using panel wipe and a paper towel, now is a really good time to make sure that there's no grease or any kind of silicone deposits left on the wheel and it's all squeaky clean. Don't forget to mask up the tyre valve, wrap it around your finger lightly and then just stick it on, and that works pretty well. I like to put some etch primer on any of the bare metal surfaces. You don't have to do this stage, you can skip it. If you haven't got any etch primer or you don't want to use it, that's absolutely fine. I've done many wheels without it, but because I'm doing a demonstration to you guys, I'm just trying to do it the most proper, thorough way. So in this video, I'm going to be using a little bit of etch primer. This one's from Pro Excel. I really do rate this stuff. Just do a light coat, maybe flash it off with a hairdryer or a heat gun, and that should be enough. Leave it for the recommended time that it says on the can, and then we can move on to the next stage. Whether you've used the etch primer or not, the next stage is to use some normal primer. Again, this one's from Pro Excel. Again, I really do rate this stuff. There's loads of others on the market. You get which one you like to use or you can get hold of, but I'm recommending this stuff. There's links in the description for any products what I've used in this video. I recommend doing 1 or 2 coats. Use your heat gun or your hairdryer. Just try and flash it off a little bit. Read the back of the can, follow the instructions, do it properly. That's the primer application done. I left these for about half an hour, maybe a little bit longer, just while I made a drink and tidied up. Depending on how many layers of primer you've put on and how rough the finish is, they'll need sanding down a little bit to make it nice and smooth. I'd personally use at this point either 800 grit wet and dry or maybe if it's a little bit more rough after the primer stage and it needs a bit more flattened back, 600 grit, and then followed by wet and dry 1000 grit. If you manage to get a nice smooth finish with the primer, or you just applied a very small amount of it to any affected areas, then you might be able to get away with just getting a bit of that Scotch pad and just giving it a flat down using the Scotch pad instead of the wet and dry paper. It's really important at this point that you give the wheels a really good panel wipe down, a good degrease, because straight after this comes the paint applications. If it's a cold day and the weather's not very good, it's a little tip to put your aerosol cans in a bucket of boiling or warm water. This tends to make the paint flow a lot better and it stops any paint spitting from the aerosol can. If it's winter or it's a cold day, keep the heat gun by your hand. In the other hand, hold your aerosol. Keep alternating between keeping the aerosol warm in the can by blowing heat across it. Also blow some heat across the wheel. Just keep everything warm so it flows better and tends to flash off and stick better. The first coat of base coat colour paint should be a very light coat. All we're doing is just dusting it on, getting a bit of product on there, and we're not putting too much on. We're not trying to get the whole thing finished in one hit. That's not a good idea and it's going to hinder the overall finish moving forward. Take your time. We're going to end up doing 2 or probably 3 coats of base coat to get the full coverage, so we're not trying to get it in one hit. On this occasion I'm working on all 4 wheels, so once the first wheel has been painted with the first layer of paint, I'll move on to the next one, and while I'm doing that, each wheel previous to it is drying. I've just got my heat gun in the other hand while I'm spraying with my right hand. I'm not trying to force dry the wheels or anything like that, I'm just blowing a little bit of warm air across the job. On most occasions I normally do 2 or 3 coats, left about 5 minutes apart, sometimes 10 minutes depending on the temperature. As you're doing it, have a good look round, check all the angles, make sure you're not missing any spokes. After the colour base coat stage, we want to be leaving it a good 10-15 minutes before we go on to putting the clear coat lacquer on. Once the base coat has dried, it's time to give the aerosol can a really good shake. My personal choice of aerosol clear coat is this 2K Clear from Pro Excel. It's a fantastic product. Like with the other paint applications that we've done, the first coat should be a light coat. Try and work systematically and methodically around the wheel. Sometimes I like to start at the air valve because then I know exactly where I started, so I know exactly where to finish. If you're doing all 4 wheels at once like I am in this video, then by the time you get back to the first wheel, it should almost definitely be ready for time for the second coat. If you're using a proper 2K clear coat, then just do this, do the tack test, touch on some of the masking tape. If it feels tacky and sticky, it's ready for the next coat. This second coat should be your final coat and the last application that we're going to do, so we're aiming for a nice glossy uniform finish. That's the repair and painting process finished, and if you follow the instructions correctly, it should look something like this. I recommend, if you can, under normal temperatures, leave these wheels for around 24 hours, particularly if you're using a 2K clear coat. Allow it enough time to dry. The last finishing touches were to get the centre caps back on the wheels. I also put a little bit of tyre slick on the tyres. And here's the final results. I was really happy with the job, how it came out. Completely DIY, something you can do at home. It's very much worth the time and effort. It completely transformed the car. It looked like a completely different car once the wheels were done. So I hope you liked the video, guys. I hope it's been valuable to you, worth your time. Leave me a like, hit the subscribe, definitely leave me a comment, share it if you can. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.